Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for hopping in. It's another day. My name is Ryan Samanyema. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much. If you your first time seeing my face, like I mentioned before, my name is Ryan Samanyema. I'm a math student studying radiography, and in my third year, I'm based in Nigeria. And apart from my medical studies, I'm also a top-rated medical content writer. And today I have an amazing guest speaker. Hey, Deanna, could you introduce yourself to the audience?
Well, thank you so much for having me. And yeah, I'm Diana Londoño. I'm a urologist in Los Angeles. And, my passion is both urology, but a lot of physician wellness as well.
Amazing. So we have some couple of questions for you to answer for the public. You ready?
Yep, let's do it.
Yeah. Okay. So if I'm looking downwards, I'm reading the questions to Deanna, right? So you guys will be wondering what's Ransom looking downwards for. So I wrote down the questions for her so I can read it to her, to answer. So the first question goes this way. Hmm. Before I ask you this question, tell us more about urology. What does that mean? So that the audience will get more clarity on that.
So, urology is a subspecialty in which we take care of anything basically where the urine passes. So, from the kidneys, the ureter, the bladder, prostate, urethra, all the genitals, and also the glands on top of the kidney, the adrenal. So, anything that is causing them to not work well, or produce too many hormones, any problems peeing, not peeing at all, peeing too much, too little, or again, any problems with prostate, or again, genital sexuality, all that is all urology. So it's both medical, where we do a lot of things with medications or lifestyle changes, and surgery as well.
I'm kind of like, thank you so much for sharing that with us. So I'm kind of like curious. We med students, you're always very curious in some things, right? You mentioned about also working, on the kidneys, right? So I want to tell me the reason if there is a difference between a nephrologist and you guys.
Yeah, that's a great question. People, tend to get confused, especially patients. Like, why aren't you the kidney doctor? They'll ask me. So, nephrologist is also dealing with the kidneys, but in a different way. They're looking at things that could make them, not work as well. And they're trying to optimize the function, how well it's working. They're looking at things within the kidney that could damage them, or sometimes autoimmune problems that are targeting the kidney. And again, they're trying to sometimes just diagnose a problem or make the function better. So many times, if your kidney function, your creatinine is not, doing well, it's declining, then the first person you usually go to is a nephrologist, because they're trying to again figure out why is it happening. Maybe are there changes in medications that could be done, things to be taken out or added to improve the function. And then we sort of come in if, for example, there is a mass in the kidney, a tumor in the kidney, a growth, or there's blockage of the urine where it's passing in the ureter, there's stones, things like that. So if stones have to be moved, if there's blockage, if there's tumors, then the urologist comes in, because we do more of the surgical part of it. We're also interested in making sure we maximize the function, because let's say if a stone is blocking in the ureter, your kidney function is going to go down. And so we will help, to improve that, but we do it from a surgical perspective. So there is some overlap, but there's definitely some things that, we don't do, we don't manage, we don't biopsy the kidneys, we don't, change the medications as much to improve the function. But we're both working to preserve, save, help the kidney, but in different ways.
Yeah, but you guys work in hands like the radiologists and the radiographers that work in hand, but they do different works. So it's same with the nephrologist and the urologist. So they do the kind of things, but in a different angles. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. So that draws me to the first question. Now, what inspired you to pursue a career in urology, a
Yeah.
field where women have traditionally been unrepresented? So, in my little research, I noticed that there are few women
Mhm.
studying urology, especially in the United States, and they are really unrepresented. So tell us, how does that feel, and tell us how you're feeling about that situation.
Well, yeah, in the United States, there's about 10% of urologists who are women who are board certified. So 90% are men. And, it's sort of unfortunate because it's a great field. It really is a great field. And people have a misconception that it's all about prostates and all we see is men. And that's actually not true. We see a lot of women. And you also can specialize in kids as well. So you can just focus on seeing children with problems, with reflux or any, blockage or, things that are and people are born with. So there's a lot of things that you can kind of focus on, and it's not just men with prostate. So you know, I don't know why, in a way, like there are more women, but I think it's important to advocate and mentor and help others. Just really realize it is a great specialty, because again, we take care of people long term. Honestly, we have people that it's not just like a general surgeon that takes an appendix and you don't see them again. We have patients that we see for years and years and years, as we help them with problems as they age. So it's a great field to continue taking care of people, to do surgery if you want, or just maybe sometimes just stay office based if you want to as well. If you don't want to do surgery, you can definitely still have a good practice just seeing patients in the office without the surgery part. But if surgery is something that you want to do, the whole time, there's definitely a lot of surgeries that can be done, whether they're kind of shorter, smaller in scale, or really big reconstructive surgeries. For example, if you have muscle invasive bladder cancer, the whole bladder is removed and reconstructed. I mean, that's a pretty major surgery, and you can go all the way down to something simple, quicker. Let's say something like a vasectomy. So there's many, many, many grades of how invasive and how long and how involved surgeries can be. But it really is a very good and fun specialty, and it has a lot of diversity where you can do so many things. Again, we talked about tumors, cancer, kidney stones, blockage, reconstruction, erectile function, sexual function, infertility. So there's just so much that really can go into it, and then you can sort of narrow it down if you like, or just be general and do a little bit of everything.
Hmm. That was an amazing explanation, Deanne, and thank you so much for sharing that with us. I'm a bit curious about something you explained. You know, out of, you know, 100% urologists, especially in the US, out of that 110% are women. So tell us, you guys are really few in the profession. So how do you guys cope with the kind of like racism if you're like attending with patients? Have you faced any racism in your career before?
You mean sexism? So, I mean, sexism,
Yeah.
I really haven't felt. I mean, there's definitely patients that prefer, a man or a woman, and that can go for either way. So, if you're a woman and you want to see a female doctor, if you're a man, you may want to see a male, and that's okay. I mean, we all have preferences, and I may have a preference as well when I see a certain physician for certain things, and that's okay. So, it's just not a problem. It's not something that I definitely take personally. Usually, a patient's going to know before they see you, obviously, if you're a man or a woman and if they have a preference. And so by the time they get to you, I mean, it's like they really do know if you are a man or a woman. And of course, even if you're a man or a woman patient, it's a lot of the things we take care of are things that many people could be embarrassed about. It's quality of life, it's incontinence, leakage, erectile problems. So these are things that no matter who you are taking care of the patient, you have to do with some tact and compassion. So, I don't think being man or woman makes a huge difference in a way. I mean, it's just the way you approach the person that is coming to see you is the most important part. And at the end of the day, of course, they may have some, concerned, they're a little bit worried. But when you again treat the person with love, with compassion, and they begin to trust you, then it doesn't matter at the end, your sex. But of course, those that do have a preference, I would honor that. I don't think that's a problem. And I've had some patients sometimes that maybe didn't realize it, they're uncomfortable, and I definitely just reschedule them because I don't want them to be uncomfortable with their care. And trust is extremely important in any relationship. If you don't have that trust, then it's just not a good relationship, whether it's a patient and doctor, or whether it's a boyfriend girlfriend, whatever it is. Any relationship needs good communication and needs trust. So if that's not happening, it just has to make some changes, because that is very, very important for any relationship and communication.
Absolutely. Communication is really important in in terms of anything related to medicine. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. So I see you're the founder of physiciancoachsupport.com. So before I move further to that question, what does that mean? What does your company entail?
Yeah, so physiciancoachsupport.com is a free and confidential platform for any physician to come and get support by a peer. So basically, it's very, very easy. You go to the website, you find your time zone, and you basically just click and make an appointment, and you get a Zoom link in which you'll be paired with a physician who is a certified life coach, and you can talk about anything that you may be concerned, worried, overwhelmed with. And it's just about support using, not psychiatry skills, but really life coaching skills. And it's about, awareness and understanding that everything that happens is a circumstance, and it's pretty much neutral until we make it mean something. So we begin to make a lot of stories about things that happen. Maybe you were late, maybe somebody said something, and you can make it mean a lot of things. And then from what you make it mean in your thoughts, those thoughts are going to lead you to feel a certain way. And when you feel a certain way, that leads you to act in a certain way. So everything we do comes from a feeling. I mean, that's just marketing or anything. So if you're going to buy something, it's because you felt a certain sensation, feeling that led you to act in a certain way. And then you get a result. You bought a car or whatever you did. Or you're feeling anxious. And then because you're anxious, you're trying to cope and you eat or overeat. And then that leads to, weight gain and feeling worse. And it's a cycle. So everything really starts from a thought and a feeling. So coaching can help you many times just realize, have some awareness, think about things a little bit differently, so you can sort of let go of the overwhelm and then being stuck, and just making all these thoughts in your head that are really not helpful and useful and keep you pretty stuck. So we're there for support, because it's not just in the US, it's globally. The rates of physician burnout are very, very high. In the United States, there are some specialties like emergency, which is front lines, is about 65% in the latest surveys. And, downward from there, but that's very, very high numbers. You have high numbers of depression and suicide. More than 400 every single year die by suicide every single year. And that's in the US, but again, it's also in other countries, globally. So this is not isolated to the US. And it really matters because we touch so many lives of the community, and your family's impacted, and you suffer, silently and painfully with all this, the anxiety and depression against suicide thoughts or suicide. So it really does matter that we have to be in a better place, realizing we are worth it. We need to take care of ourselves. It's not a luxury, but it's a necessity to have self care and learn a lot of these things that we're not taught, like boundaries and learning to say no and learning to take care of our needs, are really, really crucial as a starting point to take care of ourselves.
Wow, that was an amazing explanation. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. So that draws me back to the question, the main question, right? So how does your experience respond to this dynamic, right? As the founder of physiciancoachsupport.com, and can you share some insights into the unique challenges, female urologists face throughout their careers, right? And how does coaching help them overcome them? Thank you for sharing that. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, I mean, the challenges are in any specialty. I don't think being 10% gives you more of a challenge than not. And I think our 90% colleagues are amazing colleagues. I've never felt, discriminated against by my colleagues or different. I've never really ever felt that. So I do think we have great colleagues that are very supportive. And, for any specialist, I think coaching is something that can be very helpful, or an adjunct to therapy, or a spiritual, guide or teacher. So many times many are needed, and it's important to realize it's not just all or none, or just one. I mean, they're all very helpful, and many successful people, no matter who you look at, have multiple coaches, like a business coach and a marketing coach and a spiritual coach and a dietary coach. I mean, they can specialize in different aspects of your life, and what a coach is trying to get you and help you with is really getting from A to Z, kind of like in a shorter time frame and a more direct way, and with some accountability. So a coach can just really get you from that A to Z, and help you, guide you, and just really get there again a little faster, more efficient, hopefully less, with less pain, because the coach has been there, understands the pitfalls, understands, what can go wrong, and it's just really there to support you in that journey. But you really have to be ready to make that change and have that growth and get uncomfortable. If you're not ready, you're not ready. So, but I think, again, coaches can be helpful, therapists can be helpful. Anybody really. And the importance is realize, as any medical professional, we all need help, and asking for help takes courage and is the most courageous thing you can do. And I don't really know anybody who's ever regretted, myself included, is getting help. It's very important to reach out and get help and realize we are all in this together. And you're not alone. You're not the only person that's ever felt X, Y, and Z. We really, many of us have felt, whatever you're going through.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that, Dr. Deanna. I'm so speechless that I don't even know what to say. Like, you guys are really doing a great job, and I believe that the audience will greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for the kind words.
Yeah, so this draws me back to the third question. You mentioned about being a life coach, and which is amazing stuff. So tell us, how do you combine your urology skills with your role as a life coach? So tell us how you do that.
Yeah, I think you can bring any life coaching skills to a patient interaction. It's not just about, listening to the symptoms and trying to figure out the diagnosis and maybe coming up with a plan. I mean, a lot of it is, showing patients that whatever they're thinking is likely leading to a lot of the problem they may be having, and how our thoughts are impacting a lot of our physical, emotional, or spiritual problems. And stress is a huge factor in our wellness or our disease. And, as a patient, 90%, 80 to 90% of doctor visits to primary care are stress related. So if you're a primary care doctor or you're a patient, your migraines, your headaches, your high blood pressure that's not well controlled, your sugar that's not well controlled, pelvic pain, testicle pain, indigestion, you feel bloated. A lot of this can be definitely made worse or caused by stress. And if you don't address that, then it likely won't get better. And we just sort of put band-aids and give you medicines for symptoms, but we don't get to the cause. So understanding that, I mean, there's a little bit of coaching in that, understanding that whatever you're putting your attention, your intention, is going to give you your results. So if you're always worrying and you're stressed, and it doesn't really help you, it just makes things worse. And really, worrying is praying for what you don't want. You add more energy, more focus onto that problem, instead of just kind of letting it go, or trying to think of a solution, or just kind of moving on and looking at things a little bit differently. So again, many times we make up a lot of stories with limited information. We may not have all the information. Like maybe you're mad at your cousin and you don't really know the whole story, but you got really upset. And again, that's making you ruminate. You're not sleeping well. You're maybe stress eating. Your sugars are crazy. They're very high. And again, it's because of something that you are sort of fabricating in your mind, not knowing the whole information, causing you stress and worry. So it's very important to address our mind, our stress, our worries into our health, because they're related. It's not just one or the other. And it doesn't matter what specialty you are. it affects all specialists. So whether you're a dermatologist, skin doctor, it's going to affect your skin. Whether you are a GI doctor, you're going to be bloated and have pain. I mean, that's, you have to think about the stress component. Urologist, pelvic pain, bladder pain, frequency, urgency, all this is made definitely worse by stress. So it's important to talk about that and address that, and not only give medications or surgeries or procedures, but really get to some of the root causes of the manifestations of stress.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that, Deanne. I'm so amazed that the audience would greatly appreciate that. So I think you've really answered the fourth question. Because you also narrated that how the two disciplines, being a life coach and also being a urologist, does to your clients. That means your patient as well. And you really narrated that so much. So there's no need of asking the fourth question again. But also, I see also you're a writer, right?
Correct. Yes.
And also you're a speaker. And that's amazing. So, what do you think are the most important things or the important issues in women's health discussions, especially in urology, and how can you communicate these issues to tell us?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's a big question. But I think probably right now one of the biggest maybe issues for women's health especially is really looking at women in menopause or perimenopause. So menopause means that it's been a whole year that you had no period, and when that happens you stop producing estrogen, and then your whole body goes through a lot of changes. So there could be physical changes of your skin, how it looks, on your energy level, on your bone strength, on your desire, your libido. There could be a lot of changes where you feel hot flashes, like you start sort of sweating, getting hot. You may have insomnia, you're not sleeping well, and mood changes as well, like anxiety, panic attacks, a lot of things. So, you know, 20 years ago or more, when there was a big study, at least in the US, called the Women's Health Initiative study, they looked at, many women that were having treatment with replacement hormone therapy, and they had some findings where basically they decided they thought that there was an increased risk of cancer, and they pulled all these women off of their hormones. And so for the last 20 years, women have been off of their hormones and have been suffering with a lot of symptoms from menopause, as well as what's very important is, bone loss, and, which is a big problem because if you have bone loss, you fall, you break your hip, the mortality is very high. So not only were they having all the other symptoms, but again, the mortality of bone loss, fractures, as well as vaginal dryness, which is not only uncomfortable and painful, but it puts you a lot at high risk for infections. And that has a lot of morbidity and mortality. So, this can be prevented with either topical or systemic hormones. So now the big change this last few years has been, a big push from the North American Menopause Society, which is a big society, re-looking at all this data that was done, years ago, and even new research, and looking and seeing that it's actually safe and effective treatment. And there's a lot of nuance, but basically the main message is, within 10 years of menopause, it's actually pretty safe for most women to be on hormone replacement therapy or menopause replacement. Um, and again, that has huge impacts on quality of life and infections and bone strength and a lot of things. So right now, I think it's sort of trying to move the needle back and get women back into treatment because they've been off of it. They've been told it causes cancer. Women are deathly afraid of hormones because of the narrative that was told to them, and they were pulled off of it. So it's a challenge to convince them that it's safe again and it's important. And so now it's again kind of moving back the needle, trying to get these women not to suffer and to take care of them because they have been really suffering, in silence with a lot of symptoms and with pain and infections. And so that is a big challenge right now. And I know there's a lot of women, OB-GYNs or urologists really, who are very big on social media, really trying to, again, educate, change the narrative, and really empower and help women at this point. So I think those are the big challenges. But I think as a speaker, as a writer, this is a good way that you can reach a bigger audience, whether you have a podcast, whether you write and share it on, a medical platform or Medscape or Kevin MD or whatever platform you prefer. You can not only take care of the patients in your community, but also in a global or a wider audience, which is very important to do because many may not have access to you in your office, but you can do so again in a bigger way. And that's why I like to write and speak, and also have my YouTube channel, talking about basic urological procedures. And I really do it in Spanish and English, because there's a lot of need and there's a lot of misinformation, especially in Spanish, or Latin culture. So really trying to educate others that again are in other countries, but can get some good information that is evidence based in their language, and just really help people that otherwise we wouldn't be able to reach.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that with us. Wow, these are amazing challenges women face out there, and I believe that the kind of things you do, you try to like bridge that gap. And kudos to you and other big urologists out there doing the same thing. Like you said, it's not every time you're gonna have face-to-face one-on-one interactions, but your works, your write-ups, your speakings through your platform can also help someone out there. So thank you so much for sharing that. So this draws to the last question, Deanna. Dr. Deanna, you've been an amazing guest speaker, and I believe that the audience will greatly appreciate you as well.
Well, thank you so
So,
much for having me. I appreciate all your advocacy and all your connections and all you do, in put in work, and really wish you a lot of success.
thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, the last question goes this way. In your own perspective, what advice would you give to female urologists out there who wants to make a major impact in the field regarding self-evaluation and success? So tell us what advice you have for them.
For any woman urologist,
Yeah.
I mean, I think whoever you are, whether you're a woman urologist or radiologist or dermatologist, I mean, I think it's just really honing in on what your passion is, and letting go of what other people think and say about you or don't say about you, because everyone has an opinion about you. So you know somebody's going to love you, somebody's going to hate you, somebody's going to want you to wear this, not wear that, do this, do that. And you really got to be very centered and grounded in who you are and love yourself, and realize people can have their opinions and that's okay, but you don't have to listen to everybody, unless it's constructive and loving, because everyone has an opinion. So do what is something that you're passionate about, something that you really love and care about, and follow that. And so sometimes you have to really sit down and kind of write down what are your values, what are you good at, how can you contribute, and how can you be a service. And so using your skill set, your passion, just really honing in on that, and having that constancy of effort, and continuing, and realizing sometimes the road is long, but if you love it and you're passionate about it, you will succeed if you continue. And again, there's many ups and downs, but do what you love, because otherwise you're going to be doing things you don't love, and you're going to be resentful and angry and upset and bitter. And it's not a good way to be in your life. Life is can be very short, and so it's a gift. You never know when it's the last day. So, use every day, again, to follow that passion and that purpose. And I think that no matter who you are, it's really important to sit down and think about those things. Think about how you want to impact the world in a positive way. Again, using those skill sets, things you like, and really, just following that path.
That was an amazing nugget, Dr. Deanna. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. So we've come to the end of the session, and thank you so much, Dr. Deanna. I know you have a very busy schedule, and having mapping out some time to have a discussion about this sensitive topics that the audience needs to learn about. And thank you so much for sharing your narratives and these questions, for the audience to get more enlightened on those things related to virology, and others attached to it. So before we wrap up the session, what are your last words for the audience?
Well, I think for anybody, the message is always to realize that you matter, that you're worth it, and that seeking help is, essential. And again, it doesn't matter if you are a physician or not. So many people suffer in silence and with loneliness, and so it's important to realize, your worth, and it's not attached to, fancy diplomas or things you have or things you own. Those are pretty temporary. That you're not going to have them forever. So what's forever is, your soul, your spirituality, your inner worth, and really realizing that, and realizing again, no matter what your situation, it always can get better, and it will pass. Again, nothing is forever, whatever situation you're dealing with, and realize there'll be an end to that, and there'll be another chapter. And just like happiness is not forever, pain is not forever. So when you are going through those challenging times, it's really essential to get help, get find a support group, find a priest, a pastor, a spiritual guide, a coach, a therapist to help you through those times, and get to a better place. So don't be afraid to ask for help. Just realize, some temporary, and that you really do matter. And that's really an important message.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, if you love this content, you want to subscribe, like, comment, and share to your network, and hopefully, someone in your network will really appreciate this. Thank you so much, Dr. Deanna.
Thank you so much for having me.